Virgin Islands. The Times has been told Sir Lindsay Hoyle was the source of the information that led police to detain and bail Mandelson, and Hoyle himself has confirmed that. Mandelson's lawyers said the allegations are baseless. Sir Lindsay has made a statement in the Commons confirming to MPs that he did speak to the police. Reform UK's candidate in the Gorton and Denton by-election will not be sanctioned over a breach of election rules. Some leaflets from Matt Goodwin did not identify his party as required, but a High Court judge has ruled that it was an administrative error by a printing company. For a full list of candidates in that by-election, go to whocanivotefor.co.uk. And the number of incidents of fly tipping in England has risen by 110,000 in a year. Government stats show there were 1.26 million cases in 2024/25, up from 1.15 million. We'll have a full news roundup at 1 p.m. But now, live on the Times Radio and the Times YouTube channels, it's times for this.
PMQs, Unpacked on Times Radio. Unpacking the politics and cutting through the crossfire.
And I'm joined, as always, by the Times' chief political commentator, Patrick Maguire. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Hugo.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Busy morning?
It's been a hectic morning, but this is the sort of stuff that makes it all worthwhile, isn't it?
How nice. Let's say it is. And we're also joined today by the comedian Alasdair Beckett-King. Hello, Alasdair.
Hello, for balance. Somebody who doesn't know anything about anything and hasn't had a busy morning.
Look, are you a regular PMQs watcher?
I wouldn't say I was a super fan. I keep up with the news, but I don't like listening to their voices. I don't like to hear them speak.
You'll love this.
I prefer to have someone write down what they said so I can get furious in my own time later.
Would it help if their voices were replaced with the voices of actors like they used to have to do with Jerry Adams?
I would love that, yeah. Yeah, just get... First of all, it's work for actors, you know, and I'm always in favour of that, you know. And, yeah, I think it would liven things up a little bit. Because Keir Starmer's voice is already sort of bordering on not sort of parody, but it could go further towards Zippy from Rainbow, I think.
That would be good. I remember there was that great, I think it was a Day-to-Day sketch, where they talked about Patrick, you're too young to remember. You're probably both too young to remember.
Of course I remember, where they have to inhale helium.
They have to inhale helium.
Credibility of their statements.
Of course I remember. You were like 7 when it came out.
I think I wasn't alive when the Day-to-Day came out.
Oh, well, there you go.
And if any casting directors are listening, I also wasn't alive then and don't know what any of you are talking about. Skibbity toilet, etc.
Understood. Look, just one more reminder. You can watch along on the Times' YouTube channels. Just go to YouTube and search for PMQs Unpacked and you will find us. Patrick, you brought us the news earlier that the person who told the police that Peter Mandelson was a flight risk was none other than Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker. It's a bit like the moment at the end of Scooby-Doo where he pulls off the mask and goes, "It was me." It's going to make things a bit odd in the chamber today, isn't it?
Yes, it will. It also depends what the leader of the opposition is asking about. If she's asking about Mandelson again, which isn't impossible, there'll be an air of unreality to proceedings, given what we now know, what the Times has revealed this morning about the Speaker's role in hastening that arrest. He says in good faith, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, that's what people are certainly talking about, if my WhatsApps are anything to go by, particularly on the Labour benches. So, but I suspect, given Keir Starmer is opening with Ukraine, it's the 4th anniversary of that invasion today. Kemi Bay may go on defence, but who knows?
You do a Lindsay Hoyle impression.
On this of all days, it would be inappropriate for me to take the man's name in vain.
I'm just wondering if that's like an impression that many people recognise when you do it at parties. I guess the parties you go to, probably.
Oh, Hugo, of course they impressions are good sometimes, as long as they're not making fun of the person in question. That was my best.
What do you reckon, Alasdair?
It's as if he was in the room.
Whoever he is.
You should be in the chamber, mate.
This is the first I'm hearing of him, but yeah, I bet that's what he sounds like.
Are you excited, Alasdair, about the by-election tomorrow?
Well, I'm nervous, interested. I'm a left-winger, so I'd rather... Am I allowed this close to a by-election to say what I think the outcome should be?
No, you can tell us what you think it's going to be, not what it should be.
I can't say what it should be.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know what it's going to be because it's going to happen in the future. But anybody who's ever heard me say anything can probably guess what my attitude is to the candidates in the by-election. It's very nerve-wracking. The last I saw, it had all 3 leading candidates almost
exactly the same
head
place.
to head.
Yeah.
Someone's going to... if Reform aren't going to get in, either someone needs to jump from Labour to Green or vice versa. And I think it seems more likely that Labour voters are going to switch to Green, to my mind.
Yeah, it's impossible to tell. Now, Patrick, what should we take from the fact that Keir Starmer made the choice to go up there? Because that was a surprise, wasn't it?
Well, you can read it one of two ways. The first, the conventional thing would be Labour think they're going to win because otherwise you don't send the Prime Minister up there. I think the more accurate interpretation is they think they could win. It's conventional at this point in a by-election for every party to go, whoa, 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 let's manage expectations, we're not going to win. But this thing is finely poised between the Greens, Labour and Reform, and the thing that will get either Reform or Labour or the Greens over the line is saying to voters on the left, on the progressive bit of the electorate, listen, we are the only party who can beat Reform. So sending the PM up there shows that Labour believe it, right? They can't do the conventional expectation management thing because that would just encourage people to vote Green if Labour say they can't win. But there's a big open question over whether sending the Prime Minister there, who, per all the polling and electoral results we've
somewhat
had,
Marmite effect.
Yeah, exactly.
In a world where everyone hates Marmite.
Some people like Marmite. That's not fair.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, I believe we have our first question from the House of Commons, so let's get that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate this side of the House with the Prime Minister's comments about Ukraine and Team GB? Mr. Speaker, before the Prime Minister and I became MPs, parties of every colour increased the cost of going to university. The system is now at breaking point for graduates. I believe the student loans have become a debt trap. It is time for all of us to do something about it. Will he cut interest rates on student loans?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to say I was glad to learn that the Leader of the Opposition has finally admitted that they scammed the country on this. And that applies to everything they did in government. We inherited their broken student loans system. We've already introduced maintenance grants to improve the situation, which they scrapped. And we will look at ways to make it fairer. And we will do other things within the economy to help students. What other things they say? The news this morning, Mr. Speaker, 7 a.m, energy bills coming down by £117 for millions of families and young people struggling. That's guaranteed money off bills in April, driven by the action that this Labour government has taken. We promised to cut the cost of living. We are cutting the cost of living.
See, it's interesting that, because on the one hand, Alasdair, I reckon, so Starmer has a point when he says, okay, this was a Tory policy, the loans, at least as they exist, say we inherited your broken system. But then he is a man who didn't have to take out a student loan, lecturing somebody who did about how she's wrong about it.
It's very odd to see both the leaders essentially admitting that both of their policies when it comes to student loans have been wrong, but fighting over which one of them was the most wrong about the situation that we're now in, when both of them have clearly been sort of party to the student loan debacle.
Yeah,
it's extremely odd to sort of stand up there and say, well, no, it is dreadful, yes, but I am currently the Prime Minister, but isn't it dreadful the way things are? Thanks to you. But I'm surprised to hear that from Kemi Badenoch, to be honest,
right?
Because it was such, for someone my age, it was such a sort of central pillar of David Cameron's Tory party, the student loans, and the fact that we were supposedly improving access to education and doing all sorts of good stuff that it turned out we weren't doing. It's fascinating that if there's a universal agreement that these are bad, it's still not possible to do anything about it.
Well, I mean, I'm the only one in the studio who's old enough not to have paid any loans at all, and never did me any harm. Patrick, are you surprised this is the topic she's picked?
No, I'm not, because they made an announcement on it over the weekend, which I ought to have remembered when I made a series of inaccurate predictions as to what she might ask about. But it is, and I should declare my interest as a Plan 2 student loan holder, right, who pays...
They're the worst.
Yeah, 9% of my income over a certain threshold, which is not fun. It's interesting because strategically for the Tories, they have to front up and say this was our idea, which they have been doing. Keir Starmer, in his happy place, responding, saying, well, don't blame us, Gov. It's all your fault, as everything else is. We have no agency in this. But the difficulty for Keir Starmer is both Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, in the Times, no less, actually said graduates would pay less under a Labour government on their loan repayments. That's clearly not happening. It's going up by about £8 a month in the near future. So I'm not surprised, because for the Tories, this is another sort of economic, fiscal area they can claim to have a policy on, where Labour doesn't really. The Treasury and Department for Education are sort of locked in unproductive talks right now at trying to find a solution, but a solution is coming there none, I think.
Let's get question 2.
Mr. Speaker, I asked him if he would cut interest rates on student loans. No answer. And for the record, energy bills are still higher than when he came into office. He keeps talking about the last government. In case he hasn't noticed, my party is under new leadership. A lot of people wish his was too, including the backbenchers sitting behind him. But let's talk again about student loans and student fees even, because to win the Labour leadership, yes, with Labour together, the Prime Minister promised to abolish tuition fees. In opposition, the Education Secretary said, graduates, you will pay less under a Labour government. I wonder what happened to those people. But can the Prime Minister tell us whether graduates are paying more or less under Labour?
Prime Minister. Certainly many in her party are under new leadership, Mr. Speaker. They're up there. The only change she's brought to her party is to make it smaller. And she talks about interest rates on loans. Mr. Speaker, not only have energy prices come down this morning, but since we were last here across the dispatch box, inflation has fallen as well, which has a huge impact on interest rates. Fallen to 3%, and the Bank of England say it's going to keep on falling. That's only happening because of the decisions that we made at the budget, opposed by the party opposite. They talk about the cost of living. This government is taking action, and under their watch, inflation was 11%, which crippled the state of finances for students as their loan rates went up.
I didn't know, I'd forgotten maybe, that Starmer had promised to abolish tuition fees when he ran for the leadership.
Yes, he did, and that was one of the 2020 pledges that were sort of, ritually disavowed over the course of his leadership. So he's not on the clearest ground here, not least because he's on the hook for that. He's on the hook for saying, as Kemi Bainott quoted, graduates will pay less. And now, Bridget Phillipson said last night, we are where we are. The mood music from the government for now, pending a concession from the Treasury on this, which, knowing the Treasury, they're probably unlikely to give lightly. That's all the government can say.
Alasdair makes a good point though when he points out that everyone's agreeing the system is broken and everyone's sort of not quite able to fix it. Because thinking back, I remember well, Alasdair, when these loans were introduced, when fees were introduced, it wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be, this is the maximum institutions can charge. Most won't charge that much. There'll be a marketplace. People will choose to go to cheaper ones if they think the courses aren't as good. And then, no, everyone just charges the maximum straight away.
Interesting, isn't it? You would have thought introducing the market into education would have worked brilliantly, just as it has when we introduced it into the NHS. But apparently it didn't quite work out like that. I suppose I would have been one of those first people getting student loans, so not quite as about a student loan as people who came after me. But yeah, it didn't seem like a scam at the start, but that's the way scams work, isn't it? If they come at you looking like a scam, you spot them. I think it was immediately pointed out to me. I think I realised when my partner's loan was much bigger than mine, because her parents earned less than my parents. And it occurred to me, so she has thousands and thousands of pounds more debt than I have because her parents earn less than my parents.
Means tested debt.
That doesn't seem right, like a good idea. Obviously, that was it's got a great deal worse since then, but it does seem like it seems like they were trying to they wanted a graduate tax, perhaps, and they got a graduate tax by the back door, but it's a graduate tax that keeps spiralling and
terrible, frightening graduate tax.
At least once we're 60, they write it off, right?
I think I wrote a column when they first introduced them long time ago, saying this is a tax, call it a tax. But they didn't call it a tax because
nobody really likes tax.
Nobody really likes tax. Whereas debt, everyone loves. just in terms of some craft to apply to this, Alasdair. I thought Keir Starmer had a couple of quite good lines there, where he goes, the only thing she's done with her party is make it smaller, you know.
That was bordering on a joke, wasn't it, from Starmer there?
Does it sound enough to you like he's just thinking of it now?
You think he's got these all written on little cue cards?
I think he's got them stenciled on his forearm.
I mean, he doesn't have. He doesn't necessarily have a great deal of showmanship about him, Keir Starmer. His reputation before he was the leader was sort of tedious, sort of integrity and sincerity. Yeah. But as you said,
and now it's just the tedium.
Well, exactly. As he ploughed through those pledges he made, sort of tossing them aside, what's left? A guy with not a huge amount of stage presence. I did think it was quite a good quip,
good line.
but you know, Bednoch doesn't look rattled by it.
Maybe he should have a ukulele. People getting in touch on YouTube. Mike says, I don't believe she's on about student loans. Talk about missing what's going on with Mandelson. She should be on that like a rat up a drain pipe. I guess she has done 2 weeks on it. Maybe she's
gone up and down the drain pipe several times already.
Is that what rats do? I just don't know.
Is the rat in there because she was being interviewed and there was a rat behind her a few weeks ago? Is that a gag? Did you see that?
That was a mouse, wasn't it?
Was it a mouse? I think
I was far away. Maybe it was a rat.
This is London. You're never more than a few feet away from a Tory. So
let's get our third question.
Mr. Speaker, I am amazed that while we're trying to talk about student loans, the Prime Minister has the cheek to talk about my party being smaller. His party is smaller too, including one MP who was arrested for child sex offences. Yeah. So perhaps before he gets on his high horse, he should ask why his backbenchers are saying that they're being called the Pedo Defenders Party. Yes. So why don't we get back? So if he... Yes, I didn't say it. I know it makes them...
Yes. Sorry. OK, let's have less. Go bit up.
I know they don't like it, Mr. Speaker.
Does the honourable member want to leave at this stage? Just understand, I want to hear the question, because it's very important that I do hear, because I may have to make a judgment. So I don't need any more shouting.
I know they don't like it, Mr. Speaker, but I haven't said anything that's not true, have I? So perhaps they should get off their high horse, stop making stupid jokes, and why don't we talk about student loans? Policies that may have been fine for 2012 with low interest rates are not fine for 2026. The fact is, graduates are paying more, not less. On Monday, the schools minister was asked on the BBC why Labour froze the repayment thresholds. She said the government has, and I quote, huge pressures. Those pressures have been created by his taxes and his borrowing to pay for more welfare. Why is the Prime Minister taking from students to give to Benefit Street?
What a nerve. Under their government, student loan thresholds were frozen for 10 years. 10 years. They broke the system. They did it with a bloke over there when they were in coalition together, and we're fixing it. Now, she used to say just a few weeks ago that she was going to focus on the economy at the exclusion of everything else. So I'm doing her a favour by bringing it back to the economy, because 117, desperate to talk about the economy, £117 off energy bills, inflation going down. The other thing that was confirmed on Friday, Mr. Speaker, borrowing is coming down, the biggest surplus on record. That means we've got the economy back under control. We're fixing the public finances. Now, I know the party of Liz Truss don't understand any of this, but she should welcome those changes when she next stands up.
Patrick, what do you think about the whole they're being called the Pedo Defenders Party? Because that's not... I don't know, it's hard to see like Neil Kinnock going in with that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time the word pedo has been used at PMQs.
I'm going to assume you just looked that up.
According to Hansard.
No.
Another journalist looked it up, and in keeping with the traditions of the Westminster lobby, I've just ripped it off without attribution.
Beautiful.
So thanks, colleagues, for doing the work. I'll return the favour a bit later. The problem for Keir Starmer is that's come from a Labour MP. And there is no issue sort of more evocative, more toxic in British cultural and popular cultural life than paedophiles, right? So it's a bit. Keir Starmer's in a bit of a pickle over that. But as you say, there's. Pedo is one word. I think Zora Sultana recently used the word nonce in the Commons chamber.
I'm not sure which is worse.
But, it's just there is a sort of slight coarsening of discourse in politics that we notice around these questions. And for the Leader of Opposition to use the word pedo, I'm not going to tone police, as she's quoting a Labour MP who said that, I think, to the Prime Minister himself. But it's interesting. The other thing that struck me from Keir Starmer's answer there, for a long time, him and Sir Ed Davey, Leader of the Liberal Democrats, were playing nice. They're from similar they have similar childhood stories, both cared for chronically ill mothers. Their electoral interests were aligned. The Lib Dems took scores of Tory seats at the election. But in the past few weeks, as Ed Davey's been criticising him on Trump, on Ukraine, on Europe, and now Keir Starmer witheringly describes him as the bloke over there, which I thought was quite funny, but suffered, as ever with Keir Starmer, from half-hearted delivery and a feeling he didn't really know who the bloke he was meant to be talking about was. That tension is an interesting emerging story in these encounters and in British politics, I think.
Alasdair, I was going to say there ain't no party like a Peter Defenders party, but then I sort of felt ill in the middle and decided not to. What did you think of that, the coarse language, the coarsening of language that Patrick referred to?
The coarsening of language. Obviously, I couldn't care less about that. It didn't bother me in the slightest. It does seem unfair, even as a comedian, it does seem unfair when you're talking about really serious crimes being committed to use it as a springboard for petty point scoring. Mm-hmm. However, and I hate to say in Badenoch's defence, but you have to acknowledge that it would be easier not to start smearing your political rivals as paedophiles if they'd not been cozying up to a convicted paedophile from the right all the way to the centre left. Had people not been chumming around with Jeffrey Epstein, that it would be easier not to reach for a nonce-gag in situations like this. But I appreciated Kemi Badenoch remembering the classics and getting a real kick in on people on benefits at the end there, which felt almost vintage, sort of a throwback to the early 2000s. Because do you remember when people on benefits were the big problem? Yeah. Now it's immigrants and so forth. But back then it was always people on benefits. So she just threw out one of the classics.
Playing the greatest hits, taken from students to give to Benefit Street. There you go. Let's get question 4.
Mr. Speaker, he says they're fixing the student loan system. How? He wasn't even talking about this until I raised it. The fact is, those policies...
And it goes for the row as well. Chair Select Committee expects a standard, not to shout somebody down.
Mr. Speaker...
I don't need any back chat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He's only talking about student loans now because I raised it. He says they're fixing the problem. The fact is, he's not. Why is it that I'm willing to ditch old Conservative policies that don't work and he wants to keep them? He's not going to do anything about it at all. On Monday, they voted to increase benefits yet again. The fact is, he is taking money out of the pockets of graduates and giving it to people who are not working. It is not fair. It is not just that he is saddling graduates with debt. It's not just that he is saddling graduates with debt. Yesterday, the Bank of England, yes, where she used to work in customer services. Yesterday, the Bank of England... Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Bank of England said that his policies are fueling youth unemployment. That's not us, that's the Bank of England. For the first time ever, youth unemployment is now higher here than it is in the EU. And while he blames everyone else, our young people can't get jobs, they are losing hope and even leaving the country. Will the Prime Minister tell us how he plans to deal with it?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, she says she's ditching failed Tory policies. It's a very long list. 14 years of list. And it starts with the word sorry. And when she says that word, we'll take her seriously. And Mr. Speaker, she talks about the Bank of England. The Bank of England have reduced interest rates 6 times. We've seen the fall in energy bills. Inflation is coming down. Borrowing is coming down. She hasn't welcomed any of that. I know she wanted to talk about the economy. She wanted to talk anything other than the economy. Perhaps she'll welcome the surge in retail sales as well. People are spending more on our high streets because of the action that we took. Wages boosted for millions of workers, opposed by the party opposite. Free breakfast clubs, opposed by the party opposite. Free childcare, opposed by the party opposite. Every measure we're taking to improve the economy, what do? They oppose it.
Alasdair, taking pounds out of the pockets of graduates and giving them to people who are not working. On one hand, that's an attack. On the other hand, it's a straightforward description of a tax and welfare system.
Yes, yeah. And it's very interesting to hear her say that she's ditching old Tory policies that don't work, which is, I suppose, in opposition, quite an easy thing to say, a much harder thing to actually practically restructure the economy. But it does make it very difficult for Starmer to come up with a strong comeback, because she isn't quite saying sorry, but she did sort of nearly.
She's kind of saying, "Not my problem, Gov."
Well,
I wasn't there. Yeah,
exactly. And I don't think there's a great deal of sincerity behind it, but it's a fairly effective attack line, and it does leave Starmer floundering. And I'm talking about these sort of the little improvements that we might all go, oh, well, have you heard that energy bills are coming down? Because I keep hearing a lot about energy bills coming down, but it doesn't feel like it's addressing the question that's being asked. It doesn't feel like he's really getting to the heart of the matter.
Patrick, very unfair about Rachel Reeves saying she worked in customer services at the Bank of England. She actually worked in customer service at HBOS, which is a very different job.
Yes, indeed. Rachel Reeves' CV. Remember that? That was a
story once.
Yeah, but it's a story that keeps on giving. If you want to undermine the government's economic credibility, and you're Kemi Badenoch, and you're in search of something to say. Listen, I think Keir Starmer is on a bit of a hiding to nothing here. Even though I was struck there, actually, his delivery keeps getting better, admittly from a low base.
He has got better in the last few weeks.
I think so.
With a bit of fire and anger, yeah.
I think he really has. Yeah, so I mean that's in the pro column for Keir Starmer. In the con column for Keir Starmer, why this is difficult for him is because what Kemi Badenoch is doing and saying is actually quite similar to what Keir Starmer was doing and saying in opposition. He would say to the government, yes, the party made mistakes in the past. We're acknowledging those mistakes, and we're ditching bad policy. Yeah, which Keir Starmer actually did himself over. He's ditching Jeremy Corbyn's policy on free university tuition, etc., etc. Right, so Keir Starmer has lived this playbook before. It was the Morgan McSweeney playbook, and it worked for him up to a point. It helped discredit the Tories. It helped re-establish Labour as a credible force in the eyes of Westminster. So, this is a proven strategy, and Keir Starmer is struggling to respond because he's in the bizarre position of being wedded to but not quite defending a Tory policy the Tories themselves are disavowing.
Well, look, we've got 2 more questions to squeeze in, and in not much time, and they're probably both going to be about the same thing, so it'll probably be fine. So let's do the first one of them.
Speaker, he is desperate to talk about the last government so that he can distract from the mess that he is making now. The fact is, he is the Prime Minister today. This is a man who got legislation in to fix his own pension, just him, no one else's. He wouldn't sort out student loans for other people. He has no plan to get young people into work. He has no plan to help graduates get out of the debt trap. They can complain as much as they like. These are facts. 411 MPs, and not a single one of them has any imagination. We are the ones doing all the thinking. Yes, he has already... Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has already made 15 U-turns. Will he make another one next week at the Spring Statement to fix the student loans system?
She wants me to talk about this government. Bills down under this government, £117. Inflation down under this government. Surplus up, record. Resales down. She won't welcome the economic news, but the business community is welcoming the plan. Business confidence is up. The FTSE's at a record high. The President of the British Chamber of Commerce has said this is the year our economy can turn around. Her miserable strategy of talking down the economy isn't working because Labour's got a plan for Britain.
Patrick, interested to hear Kemi Badenoch there go with the Sun's 15 U-turns rather than the Times' 14 U-turns.
Well, At least it's a News UK title, eh?
Sometimes, Alasdair, when Starmer speaks, when he starts listing, it just sounds like just a sort of stuttering nonsense. Surplus, commerce, FTSE, goes up, goes down.
I've always been a big fan of sort of jazz music and scat, and I do think he's moving in that area. We just need a sort of a three-piece behind him.
Yeah.
You mentioned McSweeney and the McSweeney playbook, Patrick. It does feel like with Starmer, you've got a leader and a Labour Party that were absolutely laser focused, forensically focused on kicking the Corbynites out, getting the left out, getting into power, winning an enormous election, and a party that then has really no idea. Like the dog that caught the car, really no idea what to do in government, and has been sort of there's a little bit of fiddling around the edges and a little bit of going, actually the economic situation's worse than we thought, but it doesn't seem like there was a big vision underpinning that. The big vision was getting the lefties out, and fair play that they achieved it.
Look, I should say just before we get the last of the main questions, who is it? Mike has been texting us repeatedly, making the very good point that Keir Starmer keeps saying that energy bills are going to come down by £117, but Rachel Reeves has been saying they're going to come down by £150. So there we have a major disagreement on the government's front bench. Let's get question 6.
Mr. Speaker, it'll only turn around this year if he stops being the leader. Perhaps they can do something about that. He wants us to welcome economic news. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to welcome the fact that youth unemployment is at its highest ever. I am not going to welcome the fact that unemployment has increased every single month under this Labour government. He is not doing anything about student loans because he is not governing. And he is not governing because he cannot govern. He is distracted by Labour scandal after Labour scandal. Mr. Speaker, even today now, there is an inquiry into the Inquiries Minister. That is all that they have offered since they came in. The defining moment of this man's premiership will not be breakfast clubs. It will be the sight of the man he appointed as ambassador to Washington just last year getting arrested. No wonder they're calling themselves all sorts of things. He needs to stop moaning about us and start fixing his useless government. Why should the country have to put up with 3 more years of this?
Yet again, she's shown why she is so utterly irrelevant. Harping from the sidelines, trying to talk down the economy.
Hello? Please, I want to hear the question, so do your constituents. Prime Minister.
All she does is carp from the sidelines, talk the economy down, talk the country down. In the meantime, because of our work, what is happening? Energy bills down, as announced this morning. Inflation down. Borrowing down. And what's up? Retail spending is up. Investment is up. Business confidence is up. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Okay.
Always love a call and response where it's not clear whether the next one will be a different direction.
Oh, no. Yeah.
What? No, that should be going down. I think Keir Starmer will be glad that that's over.
Yeah. It's a good carping from the sidelines. I love that phrase.
It's hard to sort of be like, oh, come on, the people out there don't really care about Peter Mandelson being arrested. They care about energy bills coming down 100. I think they actually do care about
a bit.
It kind of is genuinely extremely bad that Peter Mandelson has been arrested. Very embarrassing for the government. And you can't really pretend we don't care about that.
Yeah. And I think, and actually, when she says the defining moment of his government might be that, I mean, that could well be true. Although
it could get worse.
There's another 3 years.
It could get a lot worse.
3 years to go, so you never know. Look, stick with us. In a moment, we're going to have the best of the rest from the backbenchers, so you won't want to go anywhere. This is Hugo Rifkind on Times Radio with Times Holidays. From bespoke itineraries to personal service, relax and let our experts plan your perfect trip. Search Times Holidays to find out more.
Across the UK. Times Radio. Hugo Rifkind on Times Radio.
Welcome back to PMQs Unpacked. I'm still joined by Patrick Maguire and Alasdair Beckett-King, but we have now been joined by Stefan Bosho, who's bringing us the best from the backbenchers. Hello, Stefan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. What have you got for us?
So the first question is from the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, who is talking about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
Can I join the Prime Minister in congratulating Team GB on our most successful Winter Olympics ever? And can I also join him in solidarity with our Ukrainian allies and friends after 4 years of them resisting Vladimir Putin's war machine? Mr. Speaker, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has raised deeply shocking concerns that Jeffrey Epstein may have used British airports and even RAF bases to traffic young women and girls in and out of our country. This is appalling. The Prime Minister knows that I agree with Gordon Brown that there needs to be a full public inquiry into all this. If he doesn't agree with Gordon Brown, will he, at the very least, commit to releasing the flight logs and related documents? Will he wait for the House to force the government to do that?
Prime Minister.
Well, I think it's important to appreciate there's obviously a police investigation going on, and I think it's right, and I'm sure he agrees with this, that that has to go wherever the evidence takes it, and we have to let that investigation run its course before deciding what next action needs to be taken.
Stefan, I'm sure I read earlier this week, indeed in the Times, that they don't have the flight logs because they've deleted them.
That's right. I mean, they're deleted every 3 months by the RAF, so it's not possible to get them. But I think Ed Davey clearly feels that this is quite a good area and a good niche for the Liberal Democrats, because the government, as you can see from Starmer's answer, is being reasonably cautious. They don't want to, he says, prejudice the police investigation. And the Tories, I was speaking to a shadow cabinet minister a couple of days ago, and they're really quite nervous about this, and they don't want to say too much, especially because Andrew hasn't been charged. So this chasm opens up for the Liberal Democrats to kick down what's a very open door, considering the allegations we've seen this week, which has included things like that Andrew was using taxpayer funds to pay for massages and, potentially flying in Epstein on RAF bases. So, these sort of attack lines, I think, is very easy for the Lib Dems to land. I think now it's going to be, how quickly can Starmer move on this while also, as he says, not prejudicing a police investigation.
Alasdair, look, it's only a paedophile potentially in league with the brother of the king and the de facto deputy prime minister flying in people to RAF bases on a private jet. When will people stop going on about it?
Chill out. Yeah. Come on, folks. Everybody likes to party. Now, it's as you say, there's an ongoing investigation, and that limits what we can say. But I can think things in my head, and they can't stop me. And I'm thinking some really slanderous stuff in my head. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is very, very sad news. It's the first time I've ever heard anything bad about the former Prince Andrew. And, there does need to be an investigation into it. It feels like that is a little bit of a shield for Starmer to hide behind, because there does seem to be... It seems reasonable to imagine that if all of the dirty laundry were aired, it would be very embarrassing for the political elite in the UK, across the board, and in many countries. I think everyone would rather this were something we could draw a line under. I would rather it didn't have a line drawn under it. I want to know what's in the files.
Yeah, sure. No, fair enough. Forgive me, Patrick. I'm going to jump to the next question because we're a little push for time. Next up is Nigel Farage, I believe, Stefan. But we're gonna begin with Keir Starmer's response to the question.
Yeah, it's a very, very quick setup. So basically, Labour had a question planted in there, so Starmer could have a little preamble for Farage's question, and so we're going to hear that now.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I also have to raise this. A death threat was shared by Reform's Deputy Council leader in Lancashire against the brilliant member for Bolsover. It said she should be shot. When death threats were made against the member for Clacton, I stood at this dispatch box and condemned them outright. If he has any decency or backbone, he will stand up, apologise, condemn the comments and sack the individual in his parties. Will he do so?
Nigel Farage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the age of 14, Michel Mandarin was forcibly removed from his home, the coral atoll of Ile-de-Quoi, dumped on the quayside of Mauritius, forced to live on food scraps out of bins. He has resettled those islands and yet now faces a removal order from yet another Labour government. So maybe twice in one lifetime he's going to be asked to leave his homeland. Can I ask the Prime Minister, for a government that is full of human rights lawyers, within and without, why do the opinions and human rights of indigenous Chagossians not matter to him at all?
Prime Minister.
So he has neither the decency nor the backbone to condemn a death threat to a member of this House, whichever party they are in. He doesn't have the decency or the backbone to condemn it and to sack the individual. And that just shows that his party have got nothing to offer the country but grievance and division. Look at their candidate in Gorton and Denton, a man who says anyone who isn't white cannot be English. No wonder he's been endorsed by Tommy Robinson. It doesn't represent our country, and anybody who wants to stand against that hatred and division should vote Labour on Thursday tomorrow in Gorton and Denton.
Well, look, look, Stefan, there's a lot going on in there, and a lot of anger in there. Do you not think perhaps the Prime Minister would be on stronger ground condemning Nigel Farage for ignoring his very important question if he hadn't then gone on to completely ignore Nigel Farage's very important question?
Look, if you want to get into semantics, if that is, what people watching at home, they may well think that, and I think the whole thing is a farce, as we know. But I mean, I think that the Starmer's tactic is quite interesting because there's a real debate happening in France at the moment and in other European countries around political violence, particularly political violence from nativist right-wing parties. So I think seeing this, I think it's a real clear evidence that Starmer is also trying to tap into this, and I reckon we'll see a lot more of it, and him trying to paint reform as a party which will be the harbinger of political violence on the right in this country. Look,
for a full list of candidates standing in Gorton and Denton in the by-election, you can go to whocanivotefor.co.uk. Patrick, there's an element of what just happened there, what we just heard there, about Labour plants a question in order to shoot down a question that's coming afterwards from Nigel Farage, which then gets it's good. I'm a little unhappy with the set piece of it all.
Yeah, look, it's good. Despite everything, despite being quite bad at politics, Number 10 are very good, increasingly good at political management and parliamentary theatre. You saw that there. Look, all they wanted was a clip of the Prime Minister saying that, and for that to be played on the news. Yeah. Nigel Farage gets to say the Prime Minister doesn't care about Chagos. Everyone goes home happy, though. I think it's interesting that Nigel Farage didn't acknowledge it at all. Interesting, perhaps unusual. But
maybe he just wasn't listening.
Nigel Farage is a very attentive listener in my experience, but it's noisy in the Commons chamber, so who knows?
Look, Patrick Maguire, great pleasure having you here. Stefan Boscher, always wonderful to have you here. Stefan's newsletter with the PMQs Unpacked roundup will be in your inboxes, in a couple of hours?
Couple of hours, let's hope so.
Better get writing. Thank you, Stefan. And look, Alasdair is sticking with me to talk about your tour. Unless you'd rather talk about Nigel Farage, it's up to you.
There's nothing I would like less than to talk about Nigel Farage.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, your tour is called Alasdair Beckett-King, King of Crumbs. Why King of Crumbs? Well, tell me about the crumbs.
That's a great question. I started out, a lot of comedians, you start out with wanting to tackle the big questions. Having just been inspired by watching Prime Minister's questions, I'm acutely aware that it's not called Prime Minister's Answers.
Yes.
It is more about the questions than it is the answers. And I think comedians have the same thing where we go, I'm going to tackle the big issues, the big questions.
By asking them.
Yeah. And then actually answering them is much harder than coming up with a punchline. And so we just do punchlines, So I started out going, who watches the Watchmen? Who milks the milkmen? These big questions. And then as you start writing a show, you just start noticing a funny thing about ducks in the park, and it gets smaller and smaller in its scope. And so that's why it's called King of Crumbs, because it's right. From the grand down to the sort of minutiae. I wanted a title that simultaneously raised and lowered expectations, basically.
Okay, and look, this is based on your Edinburgh Fringe show from last year.
Yes, I did.
Highly acclaimed.
It was highly acclaimed, which is one of the best types of acclaim. High acclaim.
Your show received low acclaim. It would never be that much.
I wouldn't have mentioned it. I wouldn't have put that on the poster.
How much does it evolve from them? How much does it evolve while you're on stage doing it and so on?
It has changed. It needs to get both longer and better after the Fringe, which is a challenge because, as you know, it's easier to make things better and shorter or longer and worse. Longer and better, that's the real holy grail of writing.
Right.
So it has. I believe it has got both longer and better. It's not a highly topical show. You know, I've done the news quiz on Radio 4 with you, and I've done that a lot. And
mock the week as well, of course.
Indeed, and for me, there's nothing more difficult or miserable than having to find out what happened that week and then try and think of a way to make it funny. And so the show is sort of a deliberate response to that, an escape from reality. You know, I think the millennials, people my age, we're suddenly becoming nostalgic. We're doing the boomer thing of thinking, oh, wasn't everything great when we were young? And I want to resist that reactionary impulse as it comes upon my generation.
I mean, it's fascinating that millennials are doing that now, because you didn't half moan about it at the time.
I know. I remember. Everyone was going, oh, this is rubbish. Oh, I hate this. And now we're all like, oh, the PlayStation 1. Oh, if only we could return to the good old days when you could get a PlayStation for $1 and a bag of sweets.
Look, what's it like on the new Mock the Week?
Very similar to the old Mock
Is it
the Week.
really?
It's a bit longer, but the recordings of I hope it's not a spoiler to say that they record more than they broadcast.
No,
the
we knew
recordings
that,
are about the same length of time. Yes, you know, Dara's still in the chair, looking, I think, younger somehow than when it finished on the BBC. Yeah, and it's been a few years, and I was just saying to someone, it's like riding a bike. But have you ever not ridden a bike for several years and then tried it again? Because I have, and it's actually really wobbly. So it's nerve-wracking to do it again after a few years off.
You strike me as a man who can ride a unicycle. Would I be wrong?
Well, not without my juggling batons, no.
Look, just back on the tour. You're also an I can't even say this. Amateur animator.
An amateur animator. Yes,
I managed to say that. And you've got animation incorporated on the tour, yes?
It's my hobby. I just love making little films. I love doing animations. You know, I create stuff and put it online. And so I love squeezing that in. You know, if I could play the penny whistle, I'd be playing the penny whistle. If I could unicycle, I'd be unicycling in the show. To me, if you've got a talent and you're not just cramming it into your show, I don't understand that.
Finally, I understand ducks feature heavily. Why? Is it just because they love crumbs?
Yes. First of all, there's the bread angle. And also, there's a hard-hitting expose about the fact that when they walk, they quack at the rhythm they walk. They quack. The faster a duck walks, the faster it quacks.
I did not know that.
Well, a lot of people don't. It's very hard to do observational comedy when you're the only person who's noticed something.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, a lot of comedians are afraid to touch the duck stuff, but I'm out there just saying the unsayable.
At last, somebody's saying something. Where can people get tickets?
On the internet mainly. You know, it's his tour of the UK. I mean, mainly England, but I'm also doing Cardiff at the end of the week, and later Glasgow and Belfast. And yeah, my name is Alasdair Beckett-King, and it doesn't matter how you spell it, the internet will know who you mean.
Alasdair, what a pleasure to see you, and good luck with the tour. The tour is King of Crumbs. Thank you, Alasdair.
Cheers.
Good to have you here. This is Hugo Rifkind on Times Radio with Times Holidays. Explore, plan, and now book the journeys inspired by our expert writers. Search Times Holidays to find out more.